Seattle, Ohio. We've got people zooming in from all the time zones. I love it. Ah, amazing. Well, thank you all so much for being here. My name is Gabrielle Viaume, and I'm an assistant director of admissions here at Skidmore College, and I am so excited to welcome you all to our Creative Thought Work series. So, this series aims to amplify Skidmore outcomes through monthly themed panels that reach a large audience of prospective students across the country and around the world. Our session today is titled Creative Thought Works, Arts and Entertainment. I'm going to ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves before we begin our moderated discussion, which will be recorded and available on the admissions website. Afterwards, we'll move to a Q&A session where panelists will be available for questions submitted through the chat feature. So, with that, panelists, if you wouldn't mind sharing your name, class year, professional title, and if you want to share a little background on what you've been up to since postgrad, that would be amazing. I'd love to start alphabetically, maybe starting with Bryn.
Thanks. It's so nice to be here tonight with all of you. I am class of 2012. I majored in art history. Afterwards, I went on to get my master's and my PhD in art history. And now I'm working as a curator at the Hyde Collection, which is a historic house and museum in Glens Falls, New York.
Amazing. Awesome. Let's move over to Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian Saraleghi. I'm from New York City. I actually graduated the same class as Gabrielle, class of 2021. I'm a director of A&R at 10K Projects, which is a record label based in New York and LA. So essentially, A&R is I sign artists and I develop them, mainly in the hip hop and the Latin music space. Um, yeah, I'm excited to speak with you all and share more about this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And let's go over to Georgia.
Hi everyone, my name is Georgia. I was born and raised in New York City. I'm Skidmore class of 2022, so just behind Gabby and Christian. I am currently living in Brooklyn, and I work as a producing associate and executive assistant for three Broadway producers. I work at a company called BFE Management and 54 Below. So I majored in political science, business, and minored in theater at Skidmore. And now I'm here working in the theater industry.
So awesome. Thanks so much, Georgia. And finally, let's go over to Monica.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Andrews and I am Skidmore class of 2019. I was actually a transfer student and I came to Skidmore my junior year and I'm so happy I did. It was one of the best decisions I could have made in my life. I was an art history major and studio art minor. After college, I worked in Vermont at the Shelburne Museum in the education department for 4 years and then I got my master's in education. And now I'm the director of learning and engagement at the Eberson Museum of Art based in Syracuse, New York. And I see we have someone from Syracuse in the chat. So greetings, fellow Syracusan.
That's awesome. Monica, I was also a transfer student, so would
Oh,
love to talk about
fantastic.
that. Oh, well, thank you all so much for those introductions. And I think let's just go ahead and get started with our moderated discussion. The first question, I really want to kind of talk about creative thought matters. That's our motto. It informs everything we do here at Skidmore, and it's a really huge distinction for us. We created this series to help prospective students and their families understand this difference. So, to you all, how did Creative Thought Matters influence your experience at Skidmore? And how did it influence and prepare you for your career after Skidmore? Does anyone want to start us off?
I can start off.
Awesome. Thanks, Bren.
I'll begin by saying that I absolutely love Skidmore's motto, and I say it all the time in my family. Whenever someone does something out of the box thinking, we're like, "Oh, creative thought matters." So I really embrace our motto, and I think as a student, it encouraged me to take a lot of classes that were sort of outside of my wheelhouse. I obviously took many art history classes, but I also took classes in anthropology and in psychology, and I took a tap dance class, and I think it was really just doing that sort of full liberal arts education and really sort of getting a little bit of everything because college is the best time to do that. And then in my professional life, when I was finishing up graduate school, museums can be a difficult field to break into. And so I was like, okay, I just need to be very open-minded and willing to take sort of any job and go any place. And so I got a 1 year provenance research fellowship at the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. And I had never really pictured myself living in Oklahoma, but I moved out there and I absolutely loved it. It's a great city. And that turned into a full-time curatorial position. And I was there for about 3 years. So I think for me, Creative Thought Matters is about keeping an open mind and looking at different options and possibilities.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Bryn. Does anyone else want to jump in there?
Yeah, I just want to jump off of something that Bryn said about keeping an open mind. I think that really resonates with me as, finding a job and finding the right job post grad can take being really creative and trying to being open-minded to doing something that you didn't necessarily think you were going to be doing or something that is totally outside of your major. I think that's another really important part about Skidmore's commitment to creative thought and also being a holistic liberal arts education is that I took so many classes outside of my major. I was able to add, 2 minors. I was able to study such a wide range of things during my time at Skidmore that when I graduated, I was able to kind of keep all those doors open to, in terms of, my job that I would take after graduation. So I think that being creative is not just, in the traditional way we think about it, being artistic. It's also keeping your mind open. And I think that was a really big part of my Skidmore experience is getting a wide, vast range of experience.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I feel like that is such a Skidmore thing to explore all of the different opportunities and academic areas that we offer. Christian, can I actually jump over to you because you were an anthropology major and now you're working in the music industry.
Yeah, so for sure, I was going to mention that. So I was an anthropology major, loved it, and I would say, the whole point of creative thought matters to me, at least from what I was able to take from it, being at Skidmore was finding different pathways to enter into a certain industry that wasn't, it isn't always necessarily, paved for you. You have to find different pathways, and I think that. I was thinking to myself when I was trying to apply for these music industry internships as a junior, as a senior, how do I find my way in? And I knew that anthropology, you learn about different processes and like different modicums to connect with people. And it really is, if you really look at anthropology, also very similar to sociology, um, kind of teaches you how to make connections in indirect ways. And for me personally, I was looking for jobs and internships during the pandemic, and I had a very difficult time, being able to be accepted for these internships because a lot of the internships were shut down because of the pandemic. So, I ended up making my own newsletter with a lot of my friends who I majored with in the anthropology department. And I was able to create a newsletter that spotlighted basically different cultural music scenes that were happening in Latin America, the United States, all throughout North America. And I was able to get an internship off of that a year after graduation. So it was or yeah, consultancy a year after graduation. So I would say that is the crux of, if I'm going to put it all together, I would say that.
Yeah, that's great. I remember the S report,
Yeah,
Christian.
the
We were
S
working
report
on that
was
was like our senior year.
junior and senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you were always working on that. That's awesome. And then finally, Monica, anything you want to add?
Yeah. I always loved the motto of creative thought matters, and it felt that whole philosophy embodied throughout my whole Skidmore experience. But particularly, I always loved when thinking of creativity, the phrase creativity knows no bounds. And when I was an intern at the Tang Museum, while a student at Skidmore, one of my supervisors, I worked in college in public programming, had said, let the only limit here be your imagination. And that really ties in with creative thought matters there. And the Tang and across all the different departments at Skidmore, they really did a lot of cool interdisciplinary collaborations. They did a lot of innovative programming and exhibitions, and I think creativity is really at the core of all of that. So now, as a education programming professional within the museum space, I always try and keep creative thought matters and let imagination only be the limit, sort of right in my pocket to shape my programming and professional work now too.
That's so awesome. And it's so cool to see how Creative Thought Matters really kind of travels with you throughout your life post Skidmore. So that's great. Thank you all. So the admissions team on our end, we get a lot of questions about how Skidmore prepares students for those strong outcomes after Skidmore. So what kind of tools did Skidmore equip you with that have allowed you to be successful in your life after college?
I'm happy to go first for this
Go
one.
for it. Yeah.
As an art history major, your senior year, at least when I was there was a wonderful class called the Art History Major and Beyond that was actually specifically designed to equip us for sort of the job hunt in that post-grad moment or during the final months of our senior year. And it taught us everything from how to write an effective resume, effective cover letter, how to reach out to people, and sort of how to develop professional relationships, do mock interviews, and actually do a mock interview yourself as part of the class. I actually now, as an alumni, recently was a mock interview panelist, interviewing some students for that course, which was a fun full circle moment. But having those experiences and sort of that guidance and coaching early on made me feel so much more at ease when this sort of job hunt actually came to fruition. And I was successful in finding a job after graduation. And even just for applying for internships and things like that, it was so helpful. And I still use a lot of the tips today in revising my own resume and things like that for consistency, quantifying your accomplishments, all of those things. So it definitely helped me hone my professional skills. And then I will also say mentorship from the faculty members in the art history department was really important, as well as my supervisors at the Tang. Having those professional relationships and access to those professionals was really important, just as you can pick their brains about their own professional paths and how that might inform your futures too. So those were all really, really critical and really supportive.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and I think the art history department, I think they still do that like senior class as well, which is so awesome that they do that. Anyone else want to add there? Yeah, Georgia.
Yeah, I've like two answers to this question. I think that the size of Skidmore to me, I was talking about this with a bunch of my peers, which, I'll have to get to later, but the size of Skidmore really does help in terms of how small and large your network can reach. So a school like Skidmore, about 2,500, right? Still that number. You get to know so many people. There's almost not an unfamiliar face when you're at graduation. You see everybody across the stage you pretty much know or have had a class with or have, sat next to at lunch, pretty much everybody. So your network can be so far reaching when you reach the professional world. That being said, I live in New York City. I know so many people from Skidmore. I live with two Skidmore graduates. So that way your network can be just so large and you get to know what everybody else is doing. There are a lot of other theater professionals who are living and working in the city that I constantly see at industry events and other theater events. So the size of the school really does lend a hand to that. I also think that tying back to what I said before about having such a wide range of education, a large part of my job is also working with a nonprofit that my bosses own and operate. So I'm talking to donors a lot and talking to people in the theater industry. And you kind of need to tap into many ranges of knowledge to have conversations with people like that. So if I'm having a conversation with a donor who loves art history, I'll tap into my, three art history classes I took at Skidmore that are completely outside of my major and what I study. But I think that's a really valuable tool to be able to converse with such a wide range of people. And I found that Skidmore really prepared me for that.
That's so awesome. Yeah, Bryn.
Yeah, jumping on the sort of networking part, I'll say that like my closest friends in my life are my Skidmore friends who I've now known for almost 20 years, and we're all spread out geographically, but it's just such a wonderful, I think, as you were saying, Georgia, the size, it really lets you make those lifelong friendships. And for me, having been away from the area for a decade and now I'm back like in the 518, I've reconnected with some of my professors and I've actually like been working with them at the museum. And so it's nice that I have those connections still. But for like a more specific skill, I would say where Skidmore really helped me a lot was improving my researching and writing skills. I still have feedback that I remember from my very first art history class of how to make my writing better, how to make my papers better. And I incorporate that constantly when I'm like writing labels and catalogs and things for our exhibitions. So that sort of a more concrete skill was very helpful.
Yeah. Christian, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like to piggyback off that point, I would say that's a huge thing. Like where, having the motto of creative thought matters and Skidmore being a liberal arts college, I felt like with the writing center resources, the anthropology department's resources, and also courses like MB 107 and professors like Manita Songvi, where it really, I would say a combination of needing to have strong writing skills just by virtue of being an anthropology major, and then also taking those minor courses, in the business department where you learn, okay, you have a data set, but you need to be able to lay out the data properly, and be able to, you know, uh, report your findings adequately so that way everyone can understand. And that really helped me where when it came to me having to report streaming numbers or having to report certain upticks in growth for certain artists that I was looking at as an intern, as a consultant, as an A&R director, those skills carry on even past, my college career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I have a couple things I want to add there too. We do have our Career Development Center, which is such a lovely office. I used the Career Development Center so much my senior year. And of course, they're just another extra resource for our current students and our alums too. You have a lifetime guarantee with the Career Development Center. But they're really just there to help make those connections with other alums, in whatever industry it is that you're interested in going into, and helping you find those different internship and job opportunities. Also, of course, we'll help you with like your resume, cover letters. They do those mock interviews. I used that office so much just in terms of getting my resume looking right when I was applying for jobs. So that's another really, really great resource, that I personally used a lot. And then I love that you mentioned MB 107, Christian. I would argue that's one of our more popular intro classes that we have at Skidmore. It's the intro class for the business department. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if people do have questions about that later on. But thank you all. And I might have one or two more questions for you guys, but you're all doing obviously such amazing things, which could maybe be a little bit intimidating to some of the students that are on Zoom here tonight. So I want you to imagine your 17-year-old self doing the college search, dreaming up the future. What kind of advice would you give your former self to get you to where you are today?
I think I have an answer to this one.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say that your decisions at this age will not determine your life when you're my age, like 25, 26. I think that I put a lot of stake into my decision making. I thought that, if I chose to do one major over another, it would determine my entire career. That is very much not true, especially at Skidmore. Pretty much everybody I know in New York, my roommates, my friends, they do something that is a little bit outside of their major. They have a very wide, they don't do exactly what they studied at Skidmore. So your decision at this point will not determine the rest of your life, but it will guide you in ways that you don't expect. I think that's my answer.
That's such a great answer, and I think so important for you all to hear. You're all so young still, and you have so much time to figure it out. So don't let that get lost on you throughout the process. Anyone else want to jump in? Yeah, Bryn.
I'll say that I wish I had taken a business class. I did not take any business classes. Skidmore now has an arts administrative major or minor, maybe, which was not there when I was a student. And I feel like that's one sort of gap in my education is that I'm in the museum and we're doing all this budgeting and we're looking at spreadsheets and finances, and I feel like I'm in over my head. So I wish I had taken one of those classes. One of, I think, my best Skidmore related decisions was choosing to study abroad. That was an amazing experience. I did a semester in Paris. I absolutely loved it. The only thing I would change is I wish I could have gone for a whole year because it was really amazing. And I find that a lot of Students will say to me, "Oh, I don't have time to study abroad. It doesn't fit with my major. I can't make it work." You can make it work. It's the one chance in your life you're probably going to have to live in a different country. So I would highly recommend studying abroad.
Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice. And I feel like looking back on my time at Skidmore, I wish I went abroad. I did not go abroad. And from all of my friends that did go abroad, they absolutely loved it. I know Christian went abroad. Georgia, did you go abroad as well? Nice. And Monica, did you go abroad? Yeah. So I wish I went abroad.
Yeah, I would say, well, for me, definitely, I'm very happy I went abroad. I've looked back very like fondly on my Skidmore career, but I would say for me, use like I think Georgia said something about similar to this, but I guess use the fact that we have a small campus to connect as much as possible with other people. I wish I made more and more connections, even though I had a solid, it was a great social circle, but it's very easy to get, I guess one track minded where, okay, these are my friends. This is the internship that I'm trying to do. This is the career that I'm trying to do. But, it's that catchphrase? It's like the more hands you shake, the more money you make or whatever. Like, like it is kind of true. So, I mean, I really would say, there are amazing people at this campus who, you can create great connections with as lifelong friends, as potential business partners in the future. So I wish I did more of that, 25% more of that.
Yeah, totally hear you. Monica, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I definitely echo everything that everyone has said so far. And going off of what Georgia was saying earlier with like the don't be afraid to change and everybody has different paths. I changed my major I think 4 or 5 times and I transferred schools. So my path was very winding and keeping an open mind and being open to change I think is really important and just really trusting in yourself and trusting the process. And I think college is about learning where you're aligned and also learning about what you don't like too. Sometimes you don't know until you try it, and that's just all part of this time and opportunity. I'll also say I think be kind and stay curious is a motto that I like to carry with me. You never know who you're going to meet or where a conversation will lead you. So I think that's something that I really try and embody now as a professional too, because you never know what doors might open simply from a conversation, or if you might develop a good mentor and mentee relationship with someone. So be kind and stay curious. And also, it's never too early to start tracking your accomplishments when you start, becoming involved, volunteering, getting internships, doing research with a professor, things like that. So, track early and track often because that'll help you just share your own success stories later on.
Yeah, I mean, all such important and great pieces of advice there. Thank you all so much. And I think I do want to ask just one more question. And I'm kind of curious, did any of you do internships? And do you maybe want to share an internship if you have completed one? One that kind of maybe inspired you to do what you're doing today?
I'm happy to
I
hop
did.
in. Oh,
Oh
you go
yeah.
first, Bryn.
So I did an internship when I was in grad school. I did not do one as an undergraduate. I had one. I went to Boston University and I did an internship at the Harvard Art Museums, which was one of my first like really curatorial experiences. And it was wonderful. And I got to write labels and really work on the layout, and it was great. But I will also say that I know that internships, especially in my field, are not always feasible because they're frequently unpaid. And so I gained a lot of benefit from my work study jobs at Skidmore. And I had a job working in the registrar's office, and then I had a job working in the library. And they weren't related at all to what I do now, but it was really important, like just sort of building office skills, like learning how to do data entry and learning how to use various Microsoft Office products and learning kind of workplace norms. And so I think that a part-time job at Skidmore was really helpful for me, not just from a financial standpoint, but also just learning some of those skills.
Absolutely. So important to highlight that. Monica, do you want to go?
Sure. I had a really well-aligned internship my senior year at the Tang Teaching Museum. I had one of the endowed internships. I was the Meg Vitrin Jacobs class of 63 endowed intern. I worked in the college and public programs department, and I had the wonderful opportunity to sort of develop my own program series that I got to lead independently with the guidance of faculty and staff at the Tang and across the art history departments and other departments. And I developed this series of single object tours from the Tang collection that hadn't been displayed before or were new acquisitions. And I got to research everything and facilitate conversations and invite different classes to come and participate. And that was a really meaningful and enriching experience for me. And that was a real taste of real museum work and very aligned with what the staff members were doing and what you might expect in an entry level role outside of Skidmore. So having that experience, I got to, talk about that in the interview processes when I was trying to find work after graduation. And I think that really allowed me to land the job that I did as a public programming associate at the Shelburne Museum right out of college. I also got to intern before I had that internship my senior year, working in the design department and the registrar department at the Tang too. They have really wonderful paid internship opportunities for I think juniors and seniors, maybe even all ages of college students there, and also great volunteer opportunities as well. I also had a part-time job as a peer mentor, and I was also graphic designer for the dance department. I had three jobs my senior year. I was a little bit of a workhorse there, but I really enjoyed working and was really able to build a lot of transferable skills. I also was able to do a summer funded experience where I was able to accept an unpaid internship experience in Boston the summer between my junior and senior year, where I worked for the Design Museum Foundation. And that was a really wonderful opportunity to accept a job that I wouldn't normally be able to take or move for or support myself in. Again, just with the museum field, sometimes there's many unpaid internships out there. So that was a really valuable opportunity that was provided by Skidmore that enabled me to do that.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point too. One, I think having the Tang on campus, our museum, is so amazing just because you're really able to get that hands-on experience while you're at school. And two, love that you mentioned the funding for students if they are doing an unpaid internship. Through our Career Development Center, you can get up to $4,500 for an unpaid internship during the summer months, which is so awesome. So really, really great to point out as well. Georgia, Christian, any internship experience you want to add?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about this. Throughout my summers, in between my years at Skidmore, did a few theater internships in the city. One at the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater, here in the city, which really helped me gear myself to this kind of career. I made a lot of friends, and I also did meet two Skidmore alumni at this job. It's a tiny little theater downtown Manhattan. Two Skidmore alumni worked there, so that was really great. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about like some classes at Skidmore that I took that really were very close to internship experience. It was during the school year, it's hard to take an internship that's not in Saratoga. So Skidmore offers a lot of very, almost work study classes. I'll mention two of them, one of which being theater company through the theater department. You basically are part of the class. It's been a while since I've talked about this, but basically you're part of the class. You go every Friday, you have a meeting with the theater department, but it also comes with a requirement that you do a rotation of jobs within the theater department. So that might be working in the box office, in the wardrobe department, in the props department, in the lighting crew, in the paint crew, wherever you choose that semester to work. You're put on a different rotation every semester. So I was able to work on wardrobe, on the box office, on I think I was lighting crew one year. And these are all things I don't do in my day to day, but it really showed me every side of the industry in real life experience. It showed me every job that is available. So I have a really holistic understanding of what it takes to put a show on in the Skidmore Theater Department. I a lot of really transferable skills as well, working in the box office, learning our ticketing system. It really was very helpful in my career. I still think about using that ticketing system because we use the same one at my job. And another class I'll mention is there's MB 107, which has already been talked about, but it was something I took in the business department called Skidmore Saratoga Consulting Partnership, SSCP. I think it's still going on. I hope it is. Where I was part of a small group of students that worked with a small business in Saratoga Springs, basically revitalizing their business, pitching them a new marketing plan, just basically working with them to come up with new ideas for their business model. And it was a semester-long course, and then we pitched a final presentation to them at the end of the year. So that was a huge experience for me in terms of learning a lot of hard skills like Excel, budgeting, and also building a deck with PowerPoint. And that was one of my favorite classes I've ever taken.
That's awesome. And I love that you mentioned both of those experiences. Super, super important to highlight. And Christian, did you want to add anything as well?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so for me, I actually did a few internships. My first internship was in East Harlem. I interned for this company called Being Latino. It was a Latin American, specifically Puerto Rican advertising agency, where basically I was posting on their Instagram page, so doing a social media internship for this advertising agency. Then, with that, because of some of the social media posts that I did, the fact that it was related to the music business, I created like a portfolio out of that. Then I sent it over to Billboard magazine. Um, to become a journalist intern for them. So then I was lucky enough to secure that internship. It was a great experience. I met a lot of artists. I was able to speak with a lot of different labels and make my connections through that. And then through that, I tried to get an internship and was in the running at a few labels that I actually work directly with now, like 300, Atlantic, Columbia Records. Then COVID happened, so then I made my newsletter, like we spoke about, called the S Report, just trying to reach out to multiple different executives on Instagram and LinkedIn. Through that, I was able to uh, get an internship legitimately with Columbia Records A&R research department. So basically, there's a whole department that's based on people who find and develop artists, but they also want to look at their stream numbers, make sure their social media growth looks good, everything. So then I did that as an intern for a year. And then after that, I became a consultant. And then through that, another person at another label found me. And it basically, yeah. So but that all happened within the span of like 4 years at Skidmore. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Christian and I were in school together, you were always busy and always doing something, which is really cool to see how all of that paid off in the long run. But thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate you answering my questions, and giving these students such great advice. But at this time, I want to move to our Q&A portion of the event. So, to my students in the Zoom room, please feel free to submit questions to our amazing panelists using the chat feature available at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then once those start coming in, I'll start relaying those out loud to our panelists. And I do want to make a note, just given that this event is a chance for you all to engage with our alums regarding their experiences, we do ask that you refrain from asking questions regarding the admissions process. So instead, again, ask questions about their time here at Skidmore, and what they've been up to after Skidmore. So at this time, please feel free to go ahead and start sending in those questions. Okay, we're already getting some. Loving this. Okay. How would you measure the openness and or empathy of the Skidmore community? Did the smaller student population ever feel limiting socially? Such a great question.
I can jump in with this one
Yeah,
because
of
this
course.
is something I was a little nervous about as a transfer student. Just like, you're entering in junior year, people kind of already have established friend groups. I'm going to be a new person in a new place. And I was coming from a larger college. I was did my first 2 years at Ithaca College, which I think is two or three times this size of Skidmore, mid-sized college. Um, and I was really surprised in a very pleasant way by the Skidmore community. They had like a cohort for us transfer students with our own orientation process, and they did a good job of community building for us within the transfer cohort, but also connecting us with other students who, showed us all the different clubs and organizations and toured us around campus or introduced us to their friends or, met up with us for lunch. And that was a really nice way to like seamlessly sort of transition in. And for me, I actually found like the smaller size of Skidmore was more conducive for making friends. You meet a lot of people, the people that you have classes with, you end up doing like group projects with and things like that. And especially as a transfer student, I felt like everybody was very open to, welcoming me in and like went the extra mile to help make me feel welcomed and comforted and connected. And that was just like a really wonderful, beautiful thing that I'm really, really grateful for.
That's awesome. Does anyone else want to add to that?
Think I
Yeah,
can just say I agree. It's a very welcoming campus and it's very easy to make friends.
totally. Yeah. And I also attest to that because I'm still here. Let's see. What are some of the more popular clubs and organizations? So, since I'm currently working there, I can tell you as of right now, Outing Club has always been very popular for us, which is like our big outdoor club. We're right in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, so they go hiking, skiing in the winter. We have Benefaction, which is like our community service-based group. They do community service in Saratoga Springs. And our performance groups are awesome. So we have multiple a cappella groups, sketch comedy, improv groups, dance groups, and they perform all throughout the academic year. But does anyone want to add to clubs? If you were involved in clubs, give a shout out to your clubs.
I was in outing club and it was
Yeah,
wonderful. I was also in the film club, which I'm not sure if it's still
I think
there
so.
anymore.
I think
Good.
so.
And I really enjoyed my involvement in lots of different clubs because it was a chance to meet people that I might not normally cross paths with. And there's just a very active, there's always some event going on every weekend that some club has put on. So
Super fun.
I was in a dance group called Breakbeats, and I really loved it, and I made my best friends from it. And I currently live with somebody I met the first day at Breakbeats rehearsal, so it's great. I love the
Okay.
clubs at Skidmore. It was a great experience, and it's also fun because you get to pop into your friends' clubs. Most of them are very open and welcoming. So if you ever wanted to go explore a club that you're not part of, that was a really fun way to spend my time at Skidmore.
That's awesome. Monica or Christian, do you want to add?
Yeah, I'll add something. I joined the outing club, which was super fun. I did one of like the stay for I think January break or come back early during January break to do like a little long weekend hiking thing, and that was really fun. And I was also part of the Tang Student Advisory Council. It sounds like a council, but it's a little bit more like a club. I think now it's grown and there is an application process, but it's a volunteer group of students that helps develop different public programs for the Tang and put on really cool events. And I met a lot of my close friends there. So really loved both of those clubs.
That's awesome. Christian, I know were you in Sketchies?
Oh yeah, I was in Sketchies. I forgot. Uh, yeah, no, actually, so I was obsessed with comedy, stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, everything. So, no, I mean, I kind of look for communities and just like the general hobbies and interests that I had in high school that I parlayed into being at Skidmore. But Sketchies was really fun. I mean, I applied 3 years in a row for Sketchies, and then I got in third try. So it was, yeah, I think that like I was able to find a really cool community there. Um, Also just in general, choosing, I think it's really easy with the departments that you choose to major in to really find friends through there. Like half of my friends are anthropology people. Um, you know, uh, Gabby and many friends of mine were people that I met through classes. So I would say the clubs and classes are just like it's the easiest places to strike up conversation. So I like that it was great for developing my social circle that way.
Yeah, totally agree. Cool. Let's keep going. This is a great question. How do you access resources of a big city from a small school like Skidmore? That's a great question.
Gonna bring
Yeah.
out my tour guide knowledge here that we are 3 hours equidistant from Boston, Montreal, and New York City, right? Did I get that right?
Yep, yep.
So I would say Skidmore is very accessible to many major cities, most notably those three. But I think I did during my time at Skidmore a few times go to career fairs in New York City. So
Mhm.
I went with the career services department. I think they provided us a bus and we went to the city. There was a huge job fair that we got to network at with other Skidmore students and employers who had booths there. So the Career Services Office does a really great job of connecting students with nearby cities. And yeah, generally very accessible. The Amtrak is lovely. The bus is great too. So that's one way I use those resources.
Yeah, that's great. I think networking really is just such a big thing. And we do have a very big Skidmore community, I would say, in New York City, Boston, kind of those big cities. And there are virtual ways to connect with alumni as well, even while you're maybe on campus. We have an online platform that we use called Handshake. I used that a little bit during my junior, senior years, and that's a nice way to connect with people that are maybe in those bigger metropolitan areas. But that is a wonderful question. I do see one specifically for Bryn and Monica, just kind of asking about your experience in art history at Skidmore.
It's a great department. And I don't even know how many art history classes, a lot with all of the professors. Um, and it's considering that it's not a huge major, it's a big department. There are maybe five full-time art history professors, I think. Um, and they do a lot of great programs. Monica mentioned some of them already to help you prepare for your careers. Another one that was really helpful to me, I forget what the name of the class was, but they paired you up with an art historian sort of in the field who was working as a professor or working as a curator, and it was a chance to kind of make those connections. And I will say now that I'm working at the Hyde, which is about a half an hour away from Skidmore, we get lots of Skidmore students as interns. So there's
Awesome.
opportunities at the Tang, but also at the Hyde and other museums.
I love the Hyde. My mom and I like to go. Monica, did you want to add to that?
Absolutely. I had a wonderful experience with the Skidmore Art History Department. I'm still in touch with a number of the faculty members there, which was awesome. I was invited to come back as a mock interviewer recently, which was a wonderful experience to connect with the current students. I loved all of the classes that I took. And again, as a transfer student, I felt like I had a lot of great mentorship and support just to plan my studies for the short time that I had at Skidmore to make sure that I graduated on time but was still able to take classes that really aligned with my interests as well as the curriculum required for my major. I did an independent study when I was a senior as well, which was a wonderful way to develop sort of a long-term research paper and then present my research at the end of the year, which was a really formative experience as well, and provide a lot of transferable skills for research and writing and critical thinking and how to take a position in your paper and all of that was really, really wonderful. And I think the art history department also was really supportive and open to the ideas of their students. I remember there was the College Art Association, which is one of the main professional organizations in the art history and design fields, had a conference down in New York City, and I had approached the chair of the department and said, "Is there any way that we can support some of us students attending the conference?" And that wasn't something that they had necessarily an established fund for at the time, but I actually got to work with the chair of the department to help design a fund and an experience for some of us students to go down and participate in that conference. So I really, felt the love and support there and appreciated that they were able to help align resources to support our student experience and take advantage of some of the resources down in the city as well.
That's awesome. Thank you both. Okay, so I have a question about dance. I know that's like the one art that we don't have totally fully represented on the panel. Georgia, correct me if I'm wrong. You were involved in dance, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I can. I was not a dance major or minor, but I did take a lot of dance classes in the department. I danced previously in high school and when I was a kid. And I was in a all-inclusive dance group called the Breakbeats. Second shout out for the Breakbeats. I was in the department and took classes. The dance classes at Skidmore are excellent. I loved taking every class I took. There's live music in every single class. They offer ballet, modern, hip hop, improvisation. There's so many options to take. The teachers are all wonderful. There's also a choreography track as well in the dance department. I just as like a casual dancer, I was never going to be any kind of professional dancer, but it is very open, so you don't have to be a major to stay consistently involved and take drop-in classes, whenever you choose. So great department, excellent teachers, loved the live music in the classes. That was really important to me, and I just loved it. It's a great department. I'm sure someone could speak way more eloquently than I can, but I love the dance department.
No, that was so awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, the dance department is so lovely. The performances they put on are amazing. So for the dance major, you'll mainly kind of focus in modern and ballet. And then for the major, there's also two concentration tracks, like Georgia mentioned. So dance performance and choreography or dance research. Um, but yeah, they usually have a big performance at the end of every fall and spring semester as well. But if you have any other questions, please let us know. Um, and this might be another Georgia question, and I might combine two of these into one. What is the caliber of the theater productions, and do they sell out?
Do they sell out? I don't know today. I know that
They do pretty well.
they do great. Yes, people from the community in Saratoga come and see the shows, and there's a large range. So the theater department does a black box and a main stage, and as well as a few, like anywhere from 3 to 5, what they call studio labs per semester. So there's a lot of theater going on a lot of the time at Skidmore. So the two main shows, I don't want to call them main. They're all very important and a lot of people attend the shows, but the black box and the main stage are in our theater spaces, which are very large. It just depends on the setup of the show if they sell out or not, but our main stage is quite a beautiful space. It really has everything you would need in a professional theater space, a full lighting rig. It usually is in the proscenium style, but they can kind of meld the space into whatever they need. The caliber of the shows are amazing. I loved the shows that we did at Skidmore when I was there. And we have, because I mentioned earlier, we have the thing called theater company. So there are
Yeah.
full crews building out the sets, and the sets are all beautiful, and like every part of the productions are really it's fueled by the students. So the shows are great. The directors are oftentimes professors at Skidmore, but then also we sometimes have visiting directors from other schools and other programs. And I've run into so many people who are guest professors or guest directors or current directors at Skidmore in New York in the industry. So they're active working professionals in the city who are coming to direct at Skidmore, which is really great real life experience. So yeah, the shows are great. I don't know. I don't think they sell out. If you want to go, I bet you can get a ticket.
Yeah, we have quite a few performances, usually for the main stage and the black box every fall and spring. But yeah, they're really, really beautiful shows, very professional. And the theater department has their own website too. If you just look up Skidmore Theater, it should be the first link that comes up if you want to take an in-depth look at what some of those productions have looked like in the past. I do see a question for Christian. So, how did majoring in anthropology interact with your interest in art, or did it? So, this student is a current high school student who wants to study anthropology as well as dance and the arts.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I mean, it totally depends on what specific art that you're interested in.
Mhm.
I would say going into anthropology, I was obsessed with different cultures, different countries. I love traveling. I I just was really interested in just people outside of my sphere. I also grew up in a very diverse environment, having come from New York City and being of my parents are immigrants. So for me, I really wanted to I really wanted to learn different cultural practices and then kind of transfer what I learned from a cultural standpoint to the sort of business that I was interested in. So
Mm,
for me, the art that I was always interested in and I didn't know how to get in was music. So I was like, how can I uh transfer these skills and these certain capabilities that I've been able to retain from anthropology and be able to use that into getting into the executive side of the music business. And
yeah.
um, so I would love to hear, or maybe you can reply with what specific art that you
Mm,
more specifically invested in. I know you said something about dance. For
hmm.
me,
Yeah.
anthropology was I don't know how to say this, but it was like there's so many tools and resources within the anthropology department that they taught us to have be applicable to
Hmm.
any single type of industry, whether it was whether it's finance, whether it's music, whether it's dance, whether it's whatever. So that's really what I would really take from that is
Yeah.
it was an incredibly multidisciplinary major that
Hmm.
had a lot of ability to transfer over into other industries.
Yeah, I think that's really important to remember, keep in mind. Um, so I'm actually curious, Bryn and Monica, did you take any studio art classes? Okay, would you
You
mind
have
touching on
to.
them? Yes, that's what I thought. Do you guys want to touch on what that was like?
Yeah, so art history majors have to take one studio art class. I am not an artist, and it's just a very common misconception when people hear that I work in museums. They're like, "Oh, you're an artist," and I'm like, "No, I'm not an artist." But there are lots of beginning art classes, and you can get through it. But I will say that I had lots and lots of friends who were studio art majors, and they loved the department. And there are so many diverse studio art classes. There's, sort of traditional painting and drawing, but then there's, pottery classes. Like Skidmore has a really good pottery program. There's printmaking. Like one of my friends was like, doing like etchings and making her own prints. And there's fashion and there's all sorts of different classes you can take. So the studio art program, they've got a beautiful building. It's a really nice program.
Awesome.
I also took studio art classes, both because of the major, but I also was trying to graduate with a double major in studio art and art history. I was I think, two classes or two credits short of doing the double major, so I last minute dropped my studio art down to a minor just so I could still graduate on time as a transfer student. But I loved the studio art program. I think the Tang and the studio art facilities were really what drew me to Skidmore as a transfer student. And I cannot express how lucky Skidmore is to have the art facilities that it does. Both, and you can pick any one of the mediums, like whether it's ceramics, they have a raku kiln. They can do wood firings with their students, and those are really unique opportunities just beyond your standard ceramics studio. And even within printmaking, you're doing like lino cut, you're doing etching, but they also have lithography classes, which is also super special for studio art students. So the facilities are incredible. All of the faculty members are wonderful. They're excellent mentors. You get the opportunity to try so many different mediums. Bryn was also saying that there's fiber arts, there's fashion design, there's an excellent sculpture studio. There's also travel seminars that are sometimes aligned with different art practices. My senior year, I took a Japanese art and culture travel seminar, which was my transfer student study abroad experience. So I took a semester long class that was focused on different traditional Japanese art making techniques, batik, shibori dyeing, things like that. And then we actually went to Japan for the 3 weeks after the semester ended in May and did an arts residency in Japan, which was awesome. I will say there's also excellent opportunities for students to exhibit their art on campus too, whether it's at the Gallery through a student juried exhibition, at the Case Gallery, or as a senior doing your thesis exhibition at the Tang. So really wonderful supports for the studio arts students.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you both. Okay, I want to ask one more question. And I think this is a really awesome question. What is the most memorable or unique class that you took in your time at Skidmore? And it doesn't have to even be in your major or minor. Anything come to mind? Yeah,
I,
Georgia.
I have an answer. I talk about this class a lot. I took a class my freshman year, called Writing on Demand. I hope it's still being taught because it's a pretty insane class. Or maybe I had a really insane teacher. I can't remember her name, but The class was really focused on writing that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be taught in an academic setting. So we wrote rejection letters, we wrote obituaries, we wrote we wrote reviews of art that we hadn't seen, just made up things in our mind and wrote a review of it. It was really, really like kind of odd things that we were. Oh, we wrote a dating profile for somebody that we had to read like a 10-page just like summary on. Just very kind of unexpected writing blurbs. And the purpose of the class was to just write in different people's tones and different people's point of view and different people's voices, but also it was a very it was a kind of a boot camp on grammar. My teacher was very specific on how she wanted us to use our grammar skills. We had quizzes every single day, grammar quizzes every day.
Wow.
So two main things I got out of that class are writing in somebody else's voice, and really hard grammar skills. I loved that class. The teacher was pretty so unique. She didn't give the traditional grading scale of, A, B, B plus. She gave not bad, not at all bad, really bad, and dreadful. So it was a great class.
Oh my God, that's so I was an English major and I'm so curious who this professor was. That
I
is,
think
if
her
you
name is
find out, can you let me know?
I will email you if I remember.
That is so funny. Does anyone else want to add on there?
I'll say my class, one of my favorites was also my freshman year, and it was with Professor Meacham in the classics department, and it was called Den of Antiquities, and it was about looted artworks, and it was
That's cool.
the sort of different processes of repatriating works of art and Nazi art looting and Native American graves and all of it was just super fascinating. And then I never would have thought that it would actually have such a big role in my career, but then I got a job doing provenance research, and so it was really wonderful class.
That was my freshman seminar too.
Was it? Yeah, it was such a
That's
good
so
one.
funny.
So good.
It's awesome.
For me, I would say Foundations of Marketing by Manita Songvi. I mentioned her earlier, but
Yeah, she's great.
I mean, it was one of those courses where well, not only she was she was stern in terms of just like really trying to key in on us being able to write properly and being able to provide arguments adequately. But she also really like imbued a lot of confidence and made it be known that, hey, you guys have all the opportunity in the world to be able to, you know, flourish in whatever career you desire. And then she would have us do things where she would provide statistics that would uh, for each industry that we wanted to go into, and then say, okay, what percentage chance would this be able to occur if you're doing this type of work? Okay, this is the kind of level
Interesting.
that you need to be able to get to in order to be able to, and she really imbued a lot of confidence in me to get involved in A&R and get involved in the music
Mhm.
business. So that course it was really analytical and and really kind of quantified, um, I guess, the business of marketing, but also the business of whatever industry you want to get into, incredibly well.
That's awesome. Okay, and then Monica.
Yes, my favorite class, which I think was like the most interesting and unique experience too, was co-taught with the art history department and at the Tang Teaching Museum, actually by the director of the museum, Ian Barry. It was called the Artist Interview, and all the students in the class got to study famous interviews with a famous artist like Andy Warhol, and we learned different interviewing styles and what makes a good interview and how to develop a relationship and be curious about different aspects of an artist's life. And we had the unique opportunity to actually invite different contemporary artists who had works in the Tang collection to actually come on site and be interviewed by students from the class. And it was interesting too, because we were sort of staged in front of their artworks on display in the Tang, and they had like a film and photography crew. So you not only were interviewing a famous live artist about their work in situ with their artwork behind them, but you're also being filmed while doing it. So it was
Oh,
sort of
wow.
it felt kind of high stakes, and it really forced me to get good at public speaking and be thoughtful with my questions and also think on your feet because you don't know what responses you're going to get during a live interview too. So that was just a really wonderful growth opportunity and really unique experience provided to the students in that class. And I think they're still running that class today too, which is awesome to see.
That's so cool. Well, thank you all so much for answering those questions, and thank you to the students in the Zoom room for those wonderful questions. I mean, as you can see, there are so many ways that Skidmore has impacted life journeys and experiences of our alums, and I think the stories that you've all heard here tonight are a wonderful testament to that. If any of you have any further questions, or if you didn't get your question tonight answered, please feel free to join either another upcoming Creative ThoughtWorks event, or feel free to just contact admissions directly if you have any other questions. I do want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to our amazing, amazing panelists for their time, and to all of you attendees for spending time with us today. I really hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you so much. Take care.